You are now watching New York Guru Sports Live. Now put your hands together for Daniel Smith.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to One of One. One of One, the first New York Guru show. Happy holidays, Steven, to you and yours and everybody else out there. Welcome to New York Guru on the one and only Jets Guru. And what you guys are sitting here going, what is going on here, Dan? What are you doing? Well, I'll give you a little background story without getting crazy because we have enough to talk about this bad team. But I've been doing Jets Guru for years and years and years now. And I've had different co-hosts, and I've only had one real producer, that's in JR. I've had people help out with the Instagram page. I've had people do audio podcasts and stream with me. We've made t-shirts and flags. We've made stickers and pins. We've had guests from ESPN. We've had Jet Legends on here. I mean, you name it, and we've done it. We've had players on here. We had Blake Cashman come on when he was actually playing. And it is just one of those things where eventually it's like, man, we put so much work into this and we don't get paid. And we put our hard earned time. We sit here in front of the computers, we make graphics. Look how well JR does everything out here. And then we put together, I watch the games over. I'm watching sports constantly. And it is not right to put our full attention just on the New York Jets when they're going on 14 years, no playoffs, and they're raising season ticket prices yet again. After the article by Diana Rossini came out, we already knew this stuff was happening as a Jet fan. We knew there was a lot more James Dolan-ish stuff going on, but we didn't know it went beyond to the point where he's possibly the worst New York sports owner that I've seen in my lifetime, even maybe eclipsing James Dolan here soon, because just some of the things that were coming out, but it makes sense. The dysfunction going back over the years and how things, like, how could you allow a guy who took you to your only success since you've bought in the team in recent memory? The Jets went through a little bit of a slide. Rex Ryan comes in, things go well, and then they don't go well. And instead of firing him, they hire a GM that doesn't want him there, and they don't buy any players, and they try to push him out, and the Jets have a surprise season. And of course, the next season didn't pan out, and so forth and so on. The stuff you're hearing coming out of the locker room where Woody's coming in and telling them what players to sit, the real story that Joe and Salah wanted Carr. And we're not saying Carr's been injured too, so we're not saying Carr would do any better, but maybe it would come with a different set of players, a different set of expectations. But ultimately, I'm not going to blame everything on, obviously, the owner because he doesn't play football. I will say that it is going to be very hard to make this better. And we're just not going to waste our time anymore. I watch 120 something Met games. I watch about 72-ish Knicks games. And why waste all that time just covering one team when I live in New York and I watch all these other teams and I figure, hey, why don't we jump on this for a while, give it a little bit of break, start to enjoy sports again, and just get back into smiling, because the Jets have robbed sports fans, Jet fans, of any type of sports happiness for the longest time. I waited my whole entire life to have a New York Jet team like the one that is assembled now, and to see it completely misused, to can see it just you could see it was tweaked with. And now you know the full story. And nothing this man has done has came to any type of success, including even firing his coach, which backfired and the Jets have not responded. The defense has completely turned the other way, and of course it has. Robert Saleh is a really good defensive head coach. He's a really good defensive coordinator, and when you remove him from the team, you remove that element as well. You remove the edge from the team. And we're starting to find out there's certain players that weren't allowed to be involved. There's certain yes and no's they couldn't do. Who are the Jets really going to be able to get to come here who isn't a first time head coach, first time GM? So the Jets hire the 33 to help them come together and find a new GM and head coach. But who is willing to come here that has any type of skill, that's willing to risk their career for an owner that's going to come in and meddle with everything that happens? Do you know anyone? Because I don't. A retread? Sure. Why not? Maybe it'll work here where it didn't work somewhere else. But that is the problem because the Jets have always had to settle. Whether it be they win a certain game they're not supposed to win and they have to settle on a certain quarterback, or they just win here too much and then they miss a Matthew Stafford, have to settle on a Mark Sanchez. These things just keep continuing. Trevor Lawrence instead of Zach Wilson. We should have had Lawrence. All of a sudden, we win miracle games. It just, this is what we do, right, as a team. And it just gets too much. Who is going to come here? I know Rex Ryan is lobbying. I know the fans. Some fans are yes, some fans are no on this. And for me personally, I just don't care anymore. I really don't. I am not going to get sucked into anything that the New York Jets do until they show me a little something. I'm still going to watch all the games. I'm sitting here on a Wednesday instead of getting ready for the next day or hanging out and relaxing after a long 5:30 a.m. wake up. I'm here still talking about the Jets. So I'm not a traitor. I'm not leaving the New York Jet fan base. And we're just expanding the horizons of what we can do here because we deserve it, don't we? After watching this, I was a young man once, 27 years old, turning 40 this year in April. Still no Jets playoffs. It's absolutely sickening. And what's more sickening was watching this game this last Sunday. To be honest with you, is downright pathetic. But I didn't have any emotion. And if you guys let me know how you felt about the game, I did not have any emotion. I was like, oh, that's cool. I had some bets going on, and so it was cool that some players covered for me, and that's excellent. But at the same time, I really, really wasn't interested in the outcome because I knew the Jets were going to lose the game. There are little things that you can tell, and the momentum started swinging, including obviously the pick six that was thrown. But these are the types of things that bad football teams do. And the one narrative that I really don't like is that Aaron Rodgers is completely washed. I do not think that he's completely washed. When you look at Aaron Rodgers' stats, when you look at what he's done more than some of these young guys out here for this New York Jet team in the last few years. I'll tell you that much as far as putting up and moving the team along. What has escaped Aaron Rodgers that's different from what we've seen him in the past is not his ability to do that because Aaron Rodgers most likely this year, if he is allowed to play out the season and he plays every game, will wind up with probably around 24 to 25 touchdowns, around that range, with probably anywhere from 11 to 13 interceptions. 24 and 13 is something we have not seen in this building in quite a bit of time. So it really hasn't been that. The Jets have lost, I think, 4 or 5 games by a combined, 14 points, 13 points. It's not like the Jets got blown out here. What Aaron Rodgers has lost is that little extra bit of sauce that the special ones have. That little bit of extra where you could squeeze a ball through where he can't do it anymore. And one thing about Aaron Rodgers that we know is he likes to get rid of the ball very quickly. It's been that way his whole entire career. But now he's getting rid of the ball even quicker, where he's just a lot of times it's even going one read and getting rid of the ball because it seems like he doesn't want to get hit. And I don't blame him. Who does? But as a quarterback, you got to stand up in the pocket, push forward, get those little yards. And this is a young man's game in a lot of ways, even in the play style. You look at what Josh Allen's able to do in the division. And we thought Josh Allen, a lot of us, and me personally, I was waiting to see it too. He was going to be cooked when he lost some of his coaches and some of his players, but he's proven otherwise. And every detractor of Josh Allen has to eat it now because he's taking receivers you've never heard of and he's out there and winning. They've lost a ton of players and they're going to be back on the upswing here soon too and being able to afford more talent. And the division's over. All right, the division is over. You're not going to see that again. What the Patriots did to us, it is now back to the Buffalo Bills again. Welcome back to the early 90s. Welcome back. It's the Buffalo Bills winning the division every year again, not the Jets, because that's what it basically is. And that is what it's going to be if Josh Allen, because the one thing that gave me a little bit of hope was that at the end of it all, Josh lost his coaches. He lost some players. I mean, he just lost a huge wide receiver. I thought he's going to go through that little bit of a slide, have to find himself. The team's going to go through a 2-3 year slide. Then contracts will leave here and there. And then all of a sudden they'll be ready to retool. By then, Aaron Rodgers, he's already have us in the Super Bowl or so. And then, don't worry, they can take it back if they need. Well, that never happened. And so he's just been going this whole entire time. And I don't see it stopping now that the Bills are going to have money here coming up to spend not too long. And so the division is wrapped up. Tua is still moving and grooving. And the only reason why the Dolphins honestly aren't in a better position is because Tua got hurt. If he didn't get hurt, then most likely the Dolphins win at least 2 more of the games they've lost. And they're a completely different position as well. I don't see the Jets overcoming that. And once again, it looks like another team has figured out possibly their quarterback issues short term because May looks pretty decent for the Patriots, at least surviving down there. The team isn't very good and they shouldn't be, but there's some hope down there that they might be better. So I could see the Jets being in last place again next year and the year after, at least until they figure it out, if ever, if ever. And seeing them completely disappear in the second half of that football game was just absolutely I just knew it was going to happen. And that's why, as I was watching the game, I was working on a few things on the couch. I was setting my stuff up, my artwork. I was looking at some stuff I needed to do in the coming week because I just knew it was going to happen. And I wasn't going to get emotionally invested. And it just happened. And that's just how it is. And it's really, really sad that it went down like this because the fans really bought in again hard. We really did. Everybody was really, really excited this time around. We thought, like, how can we mess this up? Look at all this talent. Even when you had Devontae Adams, you were like, all right, come on, at least something, right? But they have proved to be completely inconsistent around the board. All season long, it's been offense looks good, defense looks bad, offense looks good. Jekyll and Hyde, 1 week to the next week. Blowing games that are reasonable, field goal kicking, blowing games. Defense can't tackle. All of a sudden, Sauce can't cover anymore. They can't stop the run to save their lives. To save their lives. And how much do we really know that they even wanted Hassan Reddick? How do we know that he wasn't meddled with so much? How do we know that this defensive line that Robert Saleh put together and company, how do we know like Woody was feeling the squeeze and he wanted to push a little too hard? This team is an absolute joke and they're an absolute mess. And I cancel my season tickets. And I hope people, you got it. The only way things change is they change with your money, where you spend your money. Stop spending it on the New York Jets. No one's saying that you have to stop watching it because I'm not going to stop watching it. I love watching the New York Jets. I've been watching them since I was a kid. It's just torture. It's like watching a movie you feel like you're a part of, and it's torture. It sucks. But don't spend your money. You don't have to spend your money. This guy's a billionaire. He owns Johnson & Johnson. He's going to be just fine. All these NFL players are going to be just fine. This organization called the NFL is going to be just fine. And that's it. I got nothing to say more about this team. You can move on because they suck. And we're still going to be Jets guru, but we're going to slow it down. We're going to open up our minds a little bit to the possibilities of what's out there. And one of the possibilities that's out there is Soto to the Mets. And I know there's a lot of talk and there's a lot of chatter in New York. Okay. because you've got Yankee fans who are freaking out because they feel like they finally have something they can ride with. They're not as good as the Dodgers. They had the easiest road, in my opinion, in recent memory to the World Series. And I think if you lose Soto, you lose a little bit of that edge. And I think you could start to see the Yankees kind of downturn a little bit, where other teams seem to get better year over year. Soto to the Mets would mean a lot for the Mets. I mean, it's another power bat. It's another person with leadership and World Series experience. I mean, it would really make their lineup dangerous. They still have some other things to do, in my personal opinion. Mr. Oh my God, I don't know if he's going to have another season like that. So it's really, really tough to look at it. Jeff McNeil, does he bounce back? I know Pete Alonso probably most likely is going to be gone. Um, so there is some holes. You did find your third baseman now of the future. You do have your catcher of the future, although he needs to stay healthy. It seems like the Mets can never have a catcher that could stay healthy. Since Mike Piazza, they've really struggled to find an everyday catcher. You know, you have Paul LaDuca who came in for season two here, and like a couple season twos here and there, but nothing steady where you're like, man, this is our guy of the future at catcher. And they've had some prospects over the years that had some exceptional talent, and it just didn't pan out for them. So the Mets do have some young talent, and that's the one thing that's really impressive is because when the year before when the Mets were on their World Series track and got stopped by San Diego in the first round, they traded a lot of those players away and got back some fantastic talent. Especially Acuna from the Braves, his brother, who came to the majors and just tore it up for the Mets when he came up. He wasn't much of a play in the playoffs because the Mets had established leadership and he's a rookie season type of guy, but he's going to make some noise and he's going to be a damn good player. And so the Mets have a good mix of young talent. You're going to see a couple pitchers come up in the next couple of years, and we'll dive into that as the season gets closer, talking about some names. But that's pretty much the Mets news that we have right now is that the runners in the play for Soto are the Mets, the Dodgers, as always, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, who've really been trying to land a big star, but it's been really hard for them to do so because nobody really wants to go play over there. And there's other teams that are willing to put up money that are a little bit more attractive, like playing for the Mets. Like if you can go to the Mets, and it's still a big thing, man. Like same thing with the Jets. If you can win with the Mets, you can win with the Jets. You're going to be loved in the city. Listen, this is about money, okay? And the Mets owner, Mr. Cohen, he has the most, and he's not going to be outbid on Soto. I promise you on this. It's not going to happen. The Mets have a bunch of money coming off the books from the Verlander deals and the Scherzer stuff and all that coming off the books. He's rich anyways, as it is. Yes, let's go Mets, of course. So the Mets, basically what the Mets season did last year is it gave the Mets an extra boost because the Mets had already had a young minor league system that they acquired through all these trades that are going to kind of push them up. Now, when you get rid of those bad contracts, you keep what you really like about the team, right? It's just like you could just totally build from here. I think the Mets have something really solid. I think the Mets are where the Knicks were a couple years ago when they first got Brunson and Leon Rose started really changing the face of what this team is going to look like. That is kind of how I feel like the Mets are right now. They're in a really good position. They did the right thing. They scaled back. They got some bargain basement pieces. They said, hey, we think that we can get this. There's still enough of this core that just had an off season. We think that can bounce back. Let's see what we can do with the extra playoff spot. And they were right. Had a very strong second half of the season, actually the best season of any Major League Baseball team in the second half. And hey, they did it. They got to the playoffs. They won some games. They're young players. They really, really shined in the playoffs. Your big money guy, Lindor, had an MVP type season. He probably would have won MVP if Otani wasn't in the National League. And you're excited again as a Met fan, and you're right back on track. But now you got the farm system, and the Mets' future is looking up. So I'm really, really excited about that. But let's move on to the next one. What do we got on here? The Knicks, yes. So the Knicks continue to roll once again, guys, and it's super exciting because when I came and I moved back to New York in 2015, I decided that I wanted to be a Knicks fan because I was moving back to New York, the place I was born, the place that I had lived most of my life up to that period in time. And I wanted to pick a new basketball team. I had faded away from basketball for such a long time. And my favorite player at the time was Kristaps Porzingis. He was playing for the Knicks at the time. So I said, I'm moving back to New York. My favorite player to watch is Porzingis. Um, I said, hey, let's do it. Let's just be Knicks fans. And it was not easy. As a Met fan, as a Jet fan, to now enter yourself, and I had entered myself into Orlando City at that time because I was living in Florida and they sucked, and then the Knicks sucked. It was not easy, but I watched like 70 plus games and I felt it. I absorbed it. So even though I wasn't a New York Knicks fan from the time that I was born, I got to experience all of that trash and garbage, and so I deserve that success as well. And yes, it has been a great watching the New York Knicks kind of transform with Julius Randle passing the torch to Mr. Brunson. And now I think the complemented pieces of bringing Mr. Towns, a Hall of Fame type center, to the team, and you brought Bridges over. And, I know a lot of Knicks fans, because they're hesitant about any moves that the front office makes because, hey, let's be honest, right? Let's be really clear. The Knicks haven't done much the last 20 something years to really be excited about. And so, like, when moves get made, when players you like get moved, you're kind of like, well, wait, hold on. Are we doing the right thing? What's going on? I can't believe we moved him. Could we move this player instead of that player? But DiVincenzo, guys like that had to leave, and you see like Towns comes in, you see Bridges come in, you see Josh Hart have more of an elevated role. And it just makes sense. And when you look at it from a basketball perspective, it makes sense because Cat is such a good 3-point shooter at a center. He's going to bring that center out from the basket, which is going to open up lanes for guys like Brunson to drive and kick out. And it's going to open up lanes for guys like Josh Hart, who like to run and attack the rim to go get rebounds. He's a very efficient rebounder. He's a very efficient scorer. So for me, like, it took me a while to get used to because I really did like DiVincenzo. I really did like Emmanuel quickly, but I've just been trusting the process. And each time I do, the Knicks reward us fans for what they're doing and what they're putting out there. And it's like really, really exciting to see that, like to see the wins. And now it went from like, okay, they were fighting really hard. They got to the first round of the playoffs. They got bounced. Then it was the second round. Now they have Brunson and they're making moves. And then and now into this year with Cat, now they're blowing teams out and they're sitting their starters with a few minutes left in the game, which just hasn't been seen. The Knicks, if healthy, are going to be ready to rock and roll to attack the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics this year. So the Knicks 13 wins, 8 losses, okay, 122 points per game. That's second in the NBA, okay? They're ninth in assists. I know they're one of the better teams in assist turnover ratio, and I know that they're one of the best teams defensively as well, and they're going to keep getting better and better. So some statistics that we see here, the Knicks have achieved 30 or more assists in 3 consecutive games for the first time since the 1994-1995 season, winning 3 out of the last 4 games. Josh Hart, again, he's just been super versatile. And also some injury updates for the New York Knicks as well. Precious is coming back. Achua is expected to make his season debut in about a week. So that's going to bolster the defense for the New York Knicks and get a little bit more of a rotation. Now, I do like, Big Germ that they got out there, and but a little bit more experience. Mitchell Robertson, Achua is really what we need, defensive presence. And then sometimes in some sets against bigger guys who don't shoot threes, and you can have Robinson and you can have Towns out there too. Because remember, Towns is put into the center position, but he does play the power forward position. But since he's gone back to center, he's been doing absolutely phenomenal. And that makes me think when Robinson comes back, yeah, don't know if I really want to swing him back to the 4. Like, I would rather honestly have Robinson come off the bench with the second team and add a little bit of energy and maybe even like pad the lead a little bit because you have such a good guy on the rebounds, on the basket, on the defensive end, give those starters a good rest, come in, and then pound teams again with the offense. And so I'd like to see Mitchell Robinson come off the bench. In the playoffs, you can mess around with exclusive matchups and different things like that. But for the regular season and to work Mitchell back in, that's how I would want it. Same thing with Precious. I think everyone on this team has played a role even coming down to Tyler Kolek, all the Dottier. I mean, it's like everyone is playing their little roles when they have to. Campaign has been about the fresh air. He's a little erratic at times, but when all these guys get rolling, they're really hard to stop. There's a lot of 3-point shooters on the New York Knicks this year. And the guys who aren't great 3-point shooters, there's a few guys on the team that can shoot threes, like OG Anunoby from the corner or Josh Hart, random spot up type 3 shooter. Bridges could shoot threes. Campaign could shoot threes. Brunson could shoot threes. Towns could shoot threes. You know, um, Miles McBride can shoot threes. Again, there's a lot of players on this team that can shoot, and so the Knicks are never out of the game because of their ability to be able to score. And then once I think they're completely whole, I do see this team tightening. The more they play together, the defense efficiency and different things like that will increase as well. And so for me, the Knicks are just doing really, really good things right now. They're honestly, to me, the second or third best team in the Eastern Conference personally. So I'm super, super excited. And again, Julius Randle, he's doing great over there for the Timberwolves. They're having a hard time personally. They're not really liking each other out there, Randall and some of the players, and then DiVincenzo's not happy being there as well. But there he is putting up points and rebounds, and he's playing out there. He's doing what he did for the New York Knicks for the Wolves. But as you know, sometimes that isolation basketball, constantly, having a forward bring the ball up like a point guard when they're not LeBron James, it becomes a bit of a problem. It slogs the game down. It cuts the movement down of the team. And I just really like what they have now. It was a really good trade by the New York Knicks, and it made total sense. And it was so awesome that Brunson took like $100 million less than he really had to, so that way we can afford players like this, because you want to build a legacy as a player. No one's going to remember Brunson. Okay, so Brunson's going to get paid wherever he goes because he's a solid player. But at the end of the day, him doing a move like this, if you can get the Knicks a championship, Brunson's going to be remembered forever in New York City. He's still going to have his money, and he's going to be able to cash in once again later on. But this is about legacy pieces for Brunson. He wants to be remembered. And to be remembered, you got to be on a good enough team to be able to win, or no one's going to remember you. No one's going to remember the team that fell short of the Eastern Conference by 1 game or lost in the Eastern Conference. You become the Indiana Pacers. You become Reggie Miller, right? And Reggie Miller is a great player, and people love him. And I loved him when I was younger, and he was a great shooter, but he could have been a lot bigger because he had some serious game, but he wasn't able to get over the Michael Jordan hump. And eventually he wasn't even able to get over the New York Knicks hump. It was a back and forth with them. And he missed his opportunity to win a chip. They got there, they lost with the Lakers. But if Reggie Miller would have got a chip or two, we look at Reggie Miller a lot different. And I think that's how Brunson is going to be looked at, because he's not even on the same level is a Reggie Miller as far as stature, because the way that the game was played in the 90s, everybody had that one player. And so now it's a little bit different, and really it's a shooter's game, and there's no hard defense that's played. It's a little bit different. The way they set the screens, even everything, the way they rebound, the way they attack the mid-range game was really important back in those days. So it's a different game, because Brunson overall, obviously, I believe, in my personal opinion, is a better player than Reggie Miller. But Reggie Miller was to me, the best shooter I have ever seen day in and day out. Obviously, Larry Bird and Ray Allen and some other players people like. But for me, Reggie Miller was the best shooter that I see. He's just just a clean shooter with attitude. But people don't remember him, and they're not going to remember him as time goes on, because he doesn't have that chip legacy. And by Brunson doing this, he's saying that, hey, money isn't everything. That, like, I want to play good basketball. I don't want to play on bad basketball teams. So if, like, we can get players in here by me taking less money, and we win more, I'll get it back on the back end. I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to bet on this team. And I like that perspective. So keep it moving, JR. What else do we got? So around New York. So this is a tester to see what you guys think about the show, the formats. We're not going to get too crazy, but we want to know what you like. Do you like the Buffalo Sabres? Do you like the New York Islanders? Do you like the New York Rangers? Do you like the Yankees? Do you like the Bills? Do you like the Nets? You tell us what you want to see, so we could focus in more on those teams, because it's a lot to cover. And again, we don't get paid for this, so we can only do as much as we can do. I work full time. I go to school at SU full time. So it is hard. So we need to make sure that we're covering things that you want to hear about. So for the meantime, we'll just throw a couple of things right here. The Nets still suck. Okay, so we'll just throw that out there. I know we got some Net fans out there. I don't have too much information for you because I haven't watched too much Nets basketball. Again, we spoke about the Yankees a little bit, not much news. I don't know. I don't know. The Buffalo Bills just keep kicking butt, and I don't know how they do it, and it's really annoying, and their fans are annoying. But I know I got to get out of my Jets mind, right? We got to focus. We're talking about New York sports, right? So we got to take. Oh, that kind of looks cool when I fade out of there. But we got to take the bias out of it and just focus on it. Josh Allen is awesome. They've got a good running game. They've got resiliency. They'll probably get bounced in the first or second round, but they're going to own this division for a while and they might just catch fire and win the whole thing. When I'm being serious, maybe it's Buffalo's time. The AFC is not as dominant as it has been. Kansas City always finds a way to win because they have great coaching and they have a great quarterback. But if they can get the AFC is kind of open to me. The New York Rangers are struggling a little bit over this stretch here to find their identity. They were good the last couple of years and they just didn't cash in. And sometimes you just miss your train. And we've seen that from a lot of teams across the league. We've seen it from our own teams. You get a little window sometimes, 2, 3, 4 years. Some teams can't be the Pittsburgh Steelers, where every year for the last 30 years or whatever, you're at least 500. It's tough. It's tough to catch fire. And when you do, you got to keep it lit, but it's only for a short time. And that's why we talked about the New York Jets with, Joe Douglas not getting a quarterback last year when Rodgers fell down because you wasted the defense then. And, you wasted the defense starting, Zach to begin with. And then, by the time you get to Aaron Rodgers, he blows his knee out. And then, so then you get to this year and, you're 2, 3 years removed from that nucleus that you started putting together that was dominant. You let a lot of guys go on the front line. You missed your window and you never even had a window. That's what's crazy. That's what is mind boggling. You missed your window and you kind of didn't even really have a window because you never really got started. And so it's tough. So we'll see what the Rangers do if they pick it up and whatnot. We'll get more into the Islanders if you guys want me to, because I'm not going to dive too much into the hockey, guys, if you're not interested in it. So you guys let me know, comment, YouTube, Facebook. We're not going to really share this across New York Jet pages because we don't want to get kicked off, right? So we're going to find, if you do want us on your page and you're watching this, let us know. We'll share it on your page. We just don't want to be rude and just drop, this on a Jets page, right? So listen, we appreciate it. Jets Guru's not done forever, but we need a break. We need a refresher. We need to let the stink out the window. We need to let it breathe for a while. And we're still going to talk about the Jets. We're going to open the show with the Jets every single week. Maybe we'll mix it up, but we want to do something fun. We want to have a good time talking about other teams. We know Tyrus is a Braves fan. I'm a Mets fan. That can get crazy. So there's different fun that we could play, and we can make fun of some teams too, right? We can have a little fun with it since we're talking about all New York teams. But JR, thank you for the digs again. It looks amazing. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please share this since I'm not sharing it on other pages because I don't want to be rude. So if you're watching, please share on your personal page. Tell your friends to check it out. We're going to be covering multiple New York teams, and let us know what you want to see and hear from New York so we can cover it and dig in a little bit more. JR, thanks again. This is New York Guru out.